The silence in their home seemed to deepen after that night. It was no longer empty but expectant. A weight settled over Lena, a constant growing pressure. She moved slowly, her breath catching in her throat. Her dreams became filled with whispers. Shadows danced at the edge of her vision. Samuel, too, grew pale and withdrawn. He started at every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves against the window pane. The doctor in the next town, a jovial man with kind eyes, was baffled. He muttered about phantom pregnancies, about the power of the mind, but his words felt hollow. Lena knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that this was no ordinary pregnancy. The months crawled by. The weight grew heavier, the whispers louder. Lena felt a constant hunger, a gnawing emptiness that nothing could satisfy. She ate constantly, yet still the hunger remained. The night Ezra was born, the moon hid behind a veil of clouds. The only light in the room came from a single flickering candle. No cries filled the air, only a heavy, wet silence. The midwife, her face ashen, refused to meet their eyes. "He's special," she whispered, placing a bundle wrapped in blood-stained cloth in Lena's arms. He was a beautiful child, large dark eyes that seemed to see too much, but his silence, it was unsettling. He never cried. Not when he was hungry, not when he was wet, not even when Lena pricked his heel, drawing a single drop of blood. Ezra fed constantly, draining Lena dry. Her milk was never enough. She brought him food more and more, but he was always hungry, always watching. Sleep became a distant memory. The house creaked and groaned under a weight that wasn't there. Their joy, once so bright, curdled into a cold, creeping fear. Ezra grew at an alarming rate. His clothes, brand new, would be tight within days, then split at the seams. He never cried, never cooed, never slept. His dark eyes followed their every move, absorbing, calculating. Desperate for rest, for a moment's respite, Lena and Samuel hired a nanny. Nia, a young woman from the village, arrived with a bright smile and a cheerful disposition, but her smile faltered the moment she stepped into the house. "There's something not right here," she whispered, her eyes darting around the room. "He just needs a firm hand," Lena said, forcing a smile, but even to her own ears the words sounded hollow. The first night Nia sat by Ezra's crib, humming a lullaby. He lay still, his dark eyes fixed on her. Hours passed. He did not blink, he did not breathe. A cold dread seeped into Nia's heart. This was not a normal child. The days that followed were a blur of exhaustion and terror. Nia tried to care for Ezra, but it was like tending to a creature from a nightmare. He devoured everything she gave him, yet his hunger only grew. One night she awoke to a sound, soft and wet, coming from Ezra's room. The door creaked open. It was empty. Her breath caught in her throat. Then she saw it. A dark shape, hunched over something in the corner. Nia crept closer, her heart pounding against her ribs. The smell hit her first, metallic, cloying. She gagged, covering her mouth with her hand. As her eyes adjusted to the darkness, she saw Ezra. He was no longer a child. His form was distorted, grotesque, and in his hands he held... Nia screamed. The scream ripped through the silence of the house, jolting Lena and Samuel awake. They rushed to Ezra's room, fear lending speed to their steps. The door swung open to reveal Nia, huddled in the corner, her eyes wide with terror. He's not human," she stammered, pointing a trembling finger at the crib. Lena and Samuel froze. The crib was empty. Then they saw it. A dark stain spreading across the pristine white sheets. The metallic scent hit them like a physical blow. Lena's mind recoiled, refusing to accept what her eyes were seeing. But the truth was inescapable. The hunger, the growth, the whispers, it all made sense now. They had brought something unholy into their home. A low growl filled the room. It was coming from under the crib. Samuel slowly knelt down, peering into the darkness. His breath hitched. Huge in the shadows. Nia didn't know how long she ran. Time seemed to lose all meaning in the heart of the dark woods. Branches tore at her clothes, her breath coming in ragged gasps, but still she ran. She had to warn someone. She emerged from the trees, blinking in the harsh light of dawn. Ahead of her, she saw the familiar silhouette of the church, its steeple a skeletal finger pointing towards the sky. Pastor Elijah. He had to know, he had to help. She burst through the doors, her cries echoing through the empty church. Pastor Elijah was there, his back to her, lighting candles at the altar. He turned slowly, his face illuminated by the flickering flames. A thin smile spread across his lips. "You shouldn't have run, child," he rasped, his voice a dry whisper. "He doesn't like to be abandoned." Nia stumbled back, fear constricting her throat. She had walked into a trap, but why? The silence returned to Hollow Creek, a heavy, expectant silence, pregnant with unspoken horrors. The townsfolk whispered about Lena and Samuel, about the strange noises that had come from their house on the edge of town. But no one dared to investigate. The house stood empty, its windows dark and lifeless. Inside, the air hung heavy with the metallic stench of blood. The crib lay shattered, splintered wood scattered across the floor. There was no sign of struggle, no sign of violence, only a chilling emptiness. Nia was never seen again. Some said she had run mad, driven insane by what she had witnessed. Others whispered that she had met a darker fate, swallowed by the same darkness that had consumed Lena and Samuel. The truth, like so many things in Hollow Creek, remained shrouded in shadow and silence. There are whispers in the dark corners of the world, whispers of ancient powers, of forgotten gods, of desires that should never be spoken aloud. Beware these whispers, for they hold the power to both grant and devour your heart's desire. The hunger for a child, for a family, can drive even the most rational mind to desperate measures. But some desires, like some doors, are best left unopened, for what awaits on the other side may be more terrifying than anything you could ever imagine. Listen closely. Can you hear the whispers? Beware lest they consume you too.